morning, everyone. It's wonderful to see our community gathering here for this beautiful event. I'm Yodit Benalfo, part of your community, our community. I'm a physician by trade. I've been working for Kaiser Permanente over 25 years. I'm standing here today representing you, my people, as well as Kaiser Permanente, that is proud to sponsor the Empower Community Weekend today. As you all know, Kaiser Permanente was founded in 1945, and its mission is to provide high quality, affordable care to its members and the community at large. At present, we have about 12.5 million members across 8 states and including District of Columbia. We are proud to share with you that in Mid-Atlantic region, we have about 17,000 Ethiopian Eritrean Americans that we care for under Kaiser Permanente's healthcare. I would like to thank again the Empower Community Organization and giving Kaiser the platform to support this community by sponsoring the wellness and self-care platform.
ሰላም ተመልካቾቻችን እንደምን ሰንብታችኋል? እንግዲህ የዛሬ ፕሮግራም የሄለን ሾው 29ኛ ሲዝን መጀመሪያ ፕሮግራም ነው። እንግዲህ እንዳለፉት አመታት እንዳደረግነው Empower the Community Weekend የሚባለው ዝግጅታችን በዋሽንግተን ዲሲ ኮንቬንሽን ሴንተር ኦገስት 2 ሞቅ ደመቅ ብሎ ነበረ። እንግዲህ ከዛ ዝግጅት ላይ በየአመቱ እንደምናደርገው ሁለት ሜን ስቴጅ ላይ የነበሩትን ፓነል ዲስከሽንስ በሄለን ሾው ፕሮግራም ላይ በዚህ ሳምንትና በሚቀጥለው ሳምንት እናቀርብላችኋለን። እንግዲህ የመጀመሪያው ፕሮግራም ቢዝነስ and leadership lessons from the front line የሚባል ሴሽን ነው። እንግዲህ Empower the Community Weekend እዚህ ዋሽንግተን ዲሲ የምናደርገው ሙሉ ዝግጅት በአብዛኛው በእንግሊዝኛ ነው። ፓነል ዲስከሽኑም የሚሆነው እንደዛ ነው ማለት ነው። እንግዲህ ከተለያዩ የሥራ ኃላፊነት ላይ በተለያዩ ኢንዱስትሪ ላይ ያሉ ትልልቅ ኃላፊነት ያላቸውን ኢትዮጵያኖችን አቅርበን በዚህ ስቴጅ ላይ ከነሱ ነው እንግዲህ ከልምዳቸው ከተሞክሯቸው የምንማረው። እስቲ ወደዛ ፕሮግራም ልውሰዳችሁ እንድትከታተሉ ተጋብዛችኋለሁ። ወደ ፕሮግራሙ እንሂድ።
I have an amazing group of speakers. Dr. Amanuel Gabru, President of LA City College, the one and only gentleman on the stage, but he's going to hold it down. Welcome. The Honorable Judge Metti Abebe, Magistrate Judge, Superior Court of the District of Columbia. We got a judge in DC, y'all. Okay. Hyatt Khalil Brown, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Member of Hyatt Brown. It's an engineering and an architectural firm. An amazing guest. Helena Ajakie, I hope I said it right. Chief Strategy Officer, National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals, NCBPM, Destination Marketing and Economic Development Leader. Welcome one and all. I am going to read. These are all very accomplished guests that we have. So I'm going to read a little bit from their bio so then when we're having the conversation, you'll have a little bit of a background of who they are. I'm going to start with Judge. The Honorable Judge Metti Abebe was appointed a magistrate judge by Chief Judge Anita Oze Herring on August 12, 2024, making her the first Ethiopian American judge on the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. Judge Abebe received her law degree from the Howard University School of Law, earning honors in administrative law and problems of the world order. She also participated in the International Law Society. Thank you, Metti. Dr. Amanuel Gabru, President of LA City College, brings a unique perspective to higher education and a keen understanding of the needs of Los Angeles' diverse population. Extending his dedication to equity beyond borders, he played an instrumental leadership role in acquiring 10.3 acres of land to build and develop a racial trauma wellness and healing center in Ghana. He also serves on the Committee for All African Diaspora Summits, furthering connection and collaboration on the global scale. Welcome, Dr. Amanu. Hyatt Khalil Brown, CCM, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Member, Hyatt Brown. As a Chief Executive Officer and Managing Member, Hyatt provides leadership, strategic direction, and oversees execution of Hyatt Brown business objectives across all the firm's lines. As a civil engineer with decades of experience in the private sector, Ms. Khalil Brown has expanded Hyatt Brown's service offering to include end-to-end engineering and financial advisory support to the owners, developers seeking to deliver complex horizontal and social mouthful for infrastructure capital improvements around the country. Ms. Khalil Brown provides oversight and direction for Hyatt Brown's internal operations, including HR, accounting, risk management, IT, business development, and marketing. Okay, so, all right, so technical difficulty. I'm looking for Helena's bio, so if someone can, it's right there. I thought I had it.
You can freestyle
you can freestyle it for me because she's awesome. So glad to have you, Helena. If you can tell us a little bit about the background. You have an extensive background in hospitality, starting in healthcare. Can you just tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. This is awesome. I get to do my own self-introduction, which I'm not prepared for, but thank you.
Oh,
my name is Helena, actually Helena Danye Ajakaye. I am currently the Chief Strategy Officer for the National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals. Prior to that, and she has her bio, so she can freestyle after that.
What happened?
I served as the Executive Vice President for the Convention and Visitors Bureau in Boston, Massachusetts. I was there for 5.5 years, and my passions really lie around economic impact and really galvanizing communities that live within destinations. In my current role, I work with CVBs across the country. We also have offices in London and the Caribbean, and I don't know, there's so much to talk about.
There is so much to say. And you know,
I've
been in the same industry for many, many years with Helena, and it's so wonderful to see in leadership roles, making decisions, and understanding how that system, the entire hospitality system works. So it's just wonderful that there are others that can follow your step and they could see what can be done in the destination marketing space and meeting planning in general. So it's great that you're here. Again, I apologize. I thought I had all my papers here, but anyways, let's get started. We all take a long journey. Nothing is paved with a clear, right, asphalt, as we call it in Ethiopia. There's bumps in the road, there's twists and turns to how we get to whatever level of accomplishment that we get. So let's get to know you a little bit. Can you share your journey? I'll start with you, Emmanuel. Key milestones that led you to your current position.
Awesome. First of all, it's an honor to be here with this esteemed panel of individuals. The last time I was in front of a judge was when I was getting a ticket, so it's nice to officially meet someone today that's doing some great things in our community. But before I begin, I want to say, let's give it up for the Miss Helen for her vision and leadership, for really bringing our community together. I'm a big believer in community, and as I have been learning about our people, our culture, having a chance to go back home to Ethiopia in 2014, I'm so in love with our people, our culture, and the reason I'm here today is because of our people, our excellence. I tell young people all the time, we come from a rich tradition of kings and queens and history that we have to share with our people. But my journey began when my father had a vision for us to come to America for an opportunity. And since that vision was to always get an education. We came from Sudan. I came here when I was 8 years old. And that journey began when my father said, we're going to America to get an education. So I always remember that, and my father passed away, that was the message that never left. That was the message that fueled me to be able to say, I'm never gonna forget that purpose. And since then, I went to college as a first-generation college student. I was a student athlete, and from throughout that process, I had mentors and people who really believed in me, who saw potential in me like I see in young people. And that journey led me to getting a bachelor's degree in communication, a master's degree in counseling, and then learning about what it means to be change agent. Today we're here to talk about leadership, and my professor would always say, you all are gonna be change agents. At 21, I didn't know what that meant until I started learning about systems, structure, policy, and what it means to impact our community. So then I went on to get a doctorate in organizational leadership, which led me to do a lot of the work that I do in community colleges as a president of a community college and working with diverse students, understanding that mentorship is key, leadership is key, policy is important to be able to change our community and our culture. So that's a little bit about my journey in terms of how I got here, but I'm excited to share a little bit about the work that I do and also learn from our panels today.
Okay, same question for you, Meti. Key decisions and milestones that led you to your current role.
All right, so for me, I think I always knew I wanted to go to law school, and similar to Aman's journey, I was always told education is how you get places, right? But my biggest, I think, takeaway and what led me to where I am today, I think, is I wasn't really interested in following the conventional legal path. I was more interested in doing the things that I really wanted. And for me, that always meant social justice issues. I always wanted to do something related to human rights, community service. So that's kind of, I think, what led me here, because I think a lot of what I did, I kind of had to create paths. I started my own practice when most people went and worked for big firms. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I did it. So basically just knowing that for me, serving the community, eventually, doing something that had to do with social justice issues was kind of what I envisioned for myself. And in the process of that path, obviously this came along. I used to work with the DC courts for quite a number of years where I represented, through the DC courts, I represented people who weren't able to pay for their own legal fees through a panel. There was a panel that just did that. And from there, I think when this opportunity presented itself, I thought, let me see what happens. And then I feel privileged and honored that I was able to get into this role, doing the things that I love to do, and being able to be a representation for our community, and eventually, hopefully, open doors for others like myself who want to go down this road. So that's kind of how I got here.
ተመልካቾቻችን እንግዲህ እየተመለከታችሁ ያላችሁት ኤምፓወር ዘ ኮሚኒቲ ዊኬንድ ላይ ኦገስት 2 እዚህ ዋሽንግተን ዲሲ ተዘጋጅቶ ከነበረው ኤምፓወር ዘ ኮሚኒቲ ዊኬንድ ቢዝነስ ኤንድ ሊደርሺፕ ሌሰንስ ፍሮም ዘ ፍሮንት ላይን የሚለውን ፓነል ዲስከሽን ነው። እስቲ ወደዛ እንደገና ልወሰዳችሁ።
All right, Hayat.
All right, thank you, Helen, for inviting me. This is my first time being in a panel. Just a warning. For me, to own a business started as soon as I became an engineer and with my first job. So I became very observant how people do what they do, and I always have an opinion, but in a positive way. I could do it better if I only given the opportunity to lead. So with that in mind, every job I did it with excellence. I made sure people noticed me. It doesn't matter. I didn't care about my accent ever. I always talked my mind or asked questions. Created a good relationship with my supervisors or people who I work with, so that they know if they need something from me, I'm there, and hopefully they will be there for me one day. So the jobs I have taken they help me make decisions early on. I will become a business person, and when I do, I'm going to lead the way I like to lead and bring others who have the same kind of interest in advancing others, and lead with that, create an opportunity, and then become as a community business owner, not just my business. I don't see my business as my business because a lot of people help me achieve what we are achieving right now at Hyatt Brown.
That's wonderful. Helena,
Yeah,
same question for you.
Yeah, thank
what
you so much.
What decisions, milestones led you to where you are today?
Yeah, thank you. And just listening to everyone, just echoing a congratulations to you on this 9th annual convention. It feels really good to be in a room full of community, and I appreciate you galvanizing that. My story probably will not sound very unique to many of us because it's something that I've heard many times over. I came here with my 2 sisters in 1987, and my father had already arrived to Boston, Massachusetts, early 70s, and he left without his daughters and his wife and couldn't take us with him for many, many reasons that we'll save for another time. But when I got here with my sisters, my father at the time was working, driving cabs all day, going to law school at night, and working overnight at the Hyatt Regency in Cambridge. And we were latchkey kids. We ran up and down Weston Avenue, went to school, came home, half an hour for a snack, back to the books, and that's what we did. And you know, I realized at a very young age, and when I left Addis Ababa in 1987, I still remember my mother and what she said to me. And you know, it was whatever you do, help people. Whatever you do, of course, achieve educational success. But she held us so tight that day that I could still feel her breath and can taste her tears as she couldn't go with us. And so my journey was, you know, kind of mapped out for me because I understood from a very young age why I was here. My father always said, once you got home and the doors closed, you're back in Ethiopia. So I don't care what happens when you're at school, but when you're back at home, this is Ethiopia. And that's how we grew up. And, you know, after learning English, made it through, you know, to get to high school, and my father there decided that 2 years of high school was enough. And I did my freshman and sophomore year and then did 2 years of college simultaneously with my last 2 years of high school, and found myself an undergrad at age 17. And I finished before I was 21, which was probably not the best plan now that I know at this age. I wish we slowed down a little bit. From there, I didn't want to go right into grad school. I went to New York and lived there for 9 years. I lived in Manhattan, worked on the trading floors, and just really wanted to learn a lot about my education. I had minored in English, communication, writing, poli-science. I wanted to go to law school. My father was an attorney, one of the first Ethiopians to open his law firm on Mass Avenue. So I was inspired by his success, but I wasn't ready. I was so young. But then came back to Boston because I realized the importance of community. I loved Manhattan and work, but I didn't find that. So when I came back to Boston, I went to Northeastern University, did my MBA there, focused on marketing and storytelling. And where that comes from, and I know we'll get into that, is the importance of storytelling. As a marketer, as someone who tells the story of a destination and people, I realized that my story wasn't being told as an Ethiopian. When I said I was Ethiopian in the 80s and 90s, I would get this somber look on people's face, and I'm like, what? I'm Ethiopian. Like, what part of me don't you get? But the power of the media and how it portrays who we are was not landing, because the power of the media and what people know about me was that we're not, there was famine, all of the things in the 80s. So I'll pause there to say how I got here is through the blood and sweat of my parents, and how I continue to sustain that why is that I still think about my mom and why we got here, and my father, and they're now here, and it's really a responsibility that I hold every day as I think about where I go and how I go.
That's great. Mm-hmm. That is a story, an immigrant story. I think in many ways when we're talking about these days, what's the contribution of immigrants? Mm-hmm. This is the contribution of immigrants. Mm-hmm. We're a valued member of the society because of these reasons that you see. Hyatt, let me come to you. I guess given our background, you mentioned earlier, I don't care what people think about me and my accent, but I still do what I want to do. Do you think sometimes decision makers maybe undervalue, maybe overlook certain things because of perception? But how do you change that within your organization? How do you let people be felt seen based on your own experience?
Good question. Okay. Working in various establishment, I have seen great engineers, especially Ethiopians, maybe other Africans, work behind the scene. And they usually do the work behind, and then the firms they work for, they only send people who can speak a good English. When that happened several times, where I know some of my colleagues here, I discussed with our supervisors, we need to know who are the people who are doing the work. Can we bring them so they show us how they make decision for the roads we let them design. The reason I say that because their supervisors usually get the information from them and then represent it as if they've done it. So if you're a technical person, you ask a couple of questions to see if they really done it. If not, you will know some of the information they gathers is not complete. Mm-hmm. So we start doing that with the people I work who believed in me also, or were respected me to bring those things to their attention. Mm. We start bringing them, and we found a lot of people, a lot of us behind the scene. And that is the perception, because just because they have accent, they couldn't communicate. They can communicate technically what they have done. We're not asking them to tell us their story, but just tell us what it means, what they have done to technically, like people who will understand them. With that, that's one thing I said, if I ever start my own business, I'll make sure those people behind the scene come to the table and contribute and grow. One of the reasons we do not communicate well because we don't have the stage. We're not at the table, and if you don't have that, you will always doubt yourself. You don't just technically being excellent. It doesn't mean it's good, but to practice how to present it, you have to be at the stage. That's the perception even now I try to break. Empower our people, the staff who work with us. It doesn't matter how you explain to me. You explain to me 50 times and they will get it right.
I love it. That's amazing. That's perfect. Mm-hmm. Judge Metti, how does your experience, your unique perspective? Again, I'm going to ask this to each one of you. Your experience, your background as an Ethiopian American, how does it inform when you're sitting in the judiciary and that decision making? How does it inform your decisions or how you look at these very complex issues that I'm sure you have to preside over at your job every day?
Okay, so I think my mic is working now.
Okay.
All right, for me, I think the job is when people walk in, and I'm sure a lot of people who walk in to any courtroom know, that's when you're at your worst. It could be a family issue. I deal with family, but it could be any issue. But when you're walking into a courtroom, you're not walking in there on the most part unless you're getting a marriage license for anything happy. So a lot of people come in with a lot of stress, a lot of heightened emotions. So sometimes what makes the cases so complicated and so difficult is not necessarily the decision you have to make, it's the amount of emotions and the level of crisis people walk in with, right? So, and you'll get people yelling at you, you'll get people, so because of how they are. But I think one of the main things that I found to be most useful is just making sure people feel heard, right? So first of all, you have to control the room, but you also have to make sure people understand when they walk in there, regardless of what they say, you're not making your decision before you finish listening to them. So, and I think that's the biggest thing. When people feel like they're not heard, they get more escalated. But when people feel like, whether it be 2 minutes, 30 seconds, when they feel like they got what they wanted out, and you give them the opportunity to speak, that kind of brings the room down, I guess is the best way to put it. It brings the room down, and everybody's kind of like, okay, she heard me. At least she heard me. So that being the case, I think for me, particularly when I walk into a courtroom, I try to make sure I've read your case. I don't let anybody else read your case. I read your case. I read your case, I know your story, whatever it is that you put in there, I've looked at it. And at the end of the day, I make my decision based on the law, right? I have to weigh out what you're telling me. I can't make a decision unless I hear your facts. Whether you come represented, and most of my people that come in my courtroom come represented, and still sometimes they still want to want to say something. Once I allow them to speak, I've already, I've read what is in there, but they've gotten their moment. For me, I think the complicated case becomes more like once the room has calmed down, like everybody's gotten an opportunity to speak, they've been heard, whatever their truth is has been told. Then from there, sometimes I also take the moment to be like, I need to be, if it's something that I kind of feel like is on right in the middle, right? I could make a decision to go right or left. I feel like sometimes even for myself as a judicial officer, I have to stop and say, I need to think this through. I can't make this decision spontaneously at the moment. I can, but it's always, sometimes if I feel like I'm in like complicated or it could go either way, I want to take some more time to like process the information that I've heard. Because sometimes it's easy, as human beings, we just want to spontaneously react and say, okay, this is what the law says. But did I really take the moment to think it through? Can I bring it closer? Can I make it a little, like balance it out? So I think for me, in terms of dealing with complicated cases, being ready, listening to people, allowing people to have their moment, and then also, from my perspective, being able to, after I've patiently listened, just if it's not the day to make the decision, it's okay to say, let me take this as under advisement. I'll make my decision another day. So if people feel heard and a more complicated case becomes, and the next time people come, sometimes they're calmer. They could, it's easier for them to see why you'd have made that decision because they feel like you've considered it. You know what I mean?
Perspectives.
So that's, it's just kind of respecting the audience and what the kind of emotions they walk into the room.
That's great. Dr. Aman, AI technology is changing everything in the world. Representation, we say, matters in education. What are some things that you think, usually we all know, like I just had a daughter that graduated from college. We know how expensive private institution and education is. And many people, miss out on the opportunity to get started somewhere. I want you to talk about, what it means, the education starting at the, community colleges, the opportunities that it offers to kind of, make sure we reach marginalized people who otherwise may not think, it's unachievable for me to go to a 4-year college. And so maybe then I'm going to be, this is the only thing that's available for me. And they're stuck in different positions, different jobs that they could have improved their life over. So how are you trying to reach the immigrant population, especially in the LA area and California or anywhere else? What are some strategies that you guys implement to reach our communities?
Absolutely. Excellent question. First of all, I just want to make sure people know what the community college system is. It's an open access institution where anyone can go, but it's also a starting point where students can come, figure out what they want to do, and they have the potential to transfer to some of the best universities in the world. Some of my students have went to UCLA, Berkeley, USC, and it's a starting point, but it's also an opportunity point. We say it's an access point for many immigrants, underserved communities. A lot of times when you don't know where you want to go, we provide the resources, the information, but also have done a lot of work in terms of our immigrant population. We have an initiative where we are building an online Pan-African virtual college in Ghana. We have over 400 international students, which is a huge focus of mine, to educate students globally, but also to reach out to many students in Ethiopia so that they know they have access to come to the community college system. A lot of times our community thinks that students only should go to a university, but the community colleges are a lot cheaper. They provide access, but they also will help you end up exactly where you want to go. So I've always been keen on teaching our parents, especially our Habesha community, how they can come from Ethiopia, from Eritrea, from anywhere, and they can come to the community college, and then their final degree will say Berkeley, Harvard, MIT, whatever it is. But we have to educate our community that the community college system is English 100 is the same as English 100 at Harvard or UCLA. When we understand that, then that means you could pay $70,000 for your undergraduate degree at UCLA or USC, or you could pay $7,000 at one of our community colleges. And that's all over the country, not just in California. So we've done a lot of work to reach out to our global community to increase online education. For students, especially in this climate, it's hard to get a visa. It's hard to come to the US right now. So what we're doing is when we're creating this Pan-African virtual college in Ghana, it's gonna provide online education to students from Ghana to take colleges in the 116 community colleges in California. And that's a model that we're developing so that next we'll go to Ethiopia, we'll go to Nigeria, Rwanda, all the countries that have the technology infrastructure to start off with online education, and then hopefully that will provide an opportunity for them to get a visa to come study in the US. So education has always been, like Malcolm X said, it's the passport to the future. It's an opportunity where it gets you to not just take classes in math and English, but also to teach you critical thinking skills, to help you figure out what it is you want to do. If you want to be a judge, a business person, an entrepreneur, that's where the light bulb begins. That's where you make connections. That's where you meet students to say, maybe this is the career for me. And then also for those that are looking to say, you know what, I want to come get a certificate in cybersecurity. I want to come learn about AI. I want to understand some skills that will help me with my businesses, to help train my employees and those kind of things. We have what we call technical education programs, from ESL, learning English, from cybersecurity, from welding, whatever it may be. The community colleges provide opportunity for those that maybe are looking for something to get right in the workforce. So that's why I say that system is unique, because it's open to everyone, but it also provides access to everyone, whether you're in another country, whether in the US. Look up the community colleges in your community and find out how you can engage our people, our community, to be able to learn about the resources. And there's also scholarship opportunities. So these are the kind of things that we've been doing to make sure we provide access for our community.
That's great. Helena,
Yes.
as you go up in that ladder in the hospitality industry, especially senior leadership, executive roles, is not as diverse as you can, as you should be. Whether it's in the hotel, whether it's in the convention bureaus, whether it's in whatever capacity in leadership, it's not necessarily as diverse as we would like to see it. So on your experience, what leadership strategies do you find most effective in navigating those systemic barriers that may be there?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. And if I can just really quickly hold space for community colleges and make a comment.
Sure.
I mentioned earlier, my first 2 years of college was at a community college, specifically Quinsigamond Community College. And I decided not to go to law school while I was in a class, speech communications class, where I was teaching the community or the class how to make injera. And the questions they asked me made me realize that I wasn't going to go to law school, that I was going to go to marketing or something in marketing or business. So I want to just show the power, and I agree with you, and congratulations. So that's a great question. And I think that, I didn't know what I didn't know when I came here. And I think that the beautiful thing about being Ethiopian Abesha is that I feel like, and if I'm wrong, forgive me, I feel like I've never been told I don't belong in a room, only because of my parents, right? And so when I came here in the 80s and learned the English language and started navigating as a teenager, I remember the moment someone reminded me that I was a black woman. And I was like, damn, I know that. Like once again, as an Ethiopian woman, as a black woman, I don't go around crutching on that per se, but it was constantly reminded of that fact. And really it started happening when I took my first role. Prior to hospitality, I spent 20 years in retail working for Ahold Delhaize, better known to you all as Giant Landover, Stop and Shop in the Northeast. And I remember taking my first job there, and they handed me keys to my first store as a store manager. And I, in my mind, just so you all know, I said, oh, they're crazy if they think I can run this whole store. But I did, and my youngest employee was 15, my oldest employee was 74, a meat cutter, union guy, who literally told me every day in variations that how the audacity of me at that young age to run a store that I think the revenue was simple, it was like 600,000 a week, you know, $1 million a month. But I went to school for it. I was taught how to run a P&L, how to build teams, how to work with employees. So that's when I realized being the only in the room was going to be a fact of whether I'm working in retail or currently now, fast forward in 2020, I accidentally stumbled onto this beautiful industry of hospitality and tourism and took the first role as the executive vice president for CVB in Boston. And to be honest, Helen, and all, when I was going through the interview process, I didn't know that I was going to be the first Black person they hired in that role. Once again, going back to how I was raised and how I put in the work, I realized, you know, I belonged there. But when I walked into my office, I think there was one Black employee other than me. And I remember doing the math. I had 34 people at the time. By the time I left, 110. I just left 6 weeks ago and love my current role. But the hospitality industry in the city of Boston, which is about 54% minorities, you know, many Ethiopians there, and from the, you know, different parts of the diaspora, the hotel industry, the hospitality industry did not represent anyone that looked like us. I would go into a meeting in hotels and there was no one that looked like me. I was the only one in my company that was a Black woman and one other person, but I intentionally started hiring people that looked like me, and by the time I left, I think there were 22 and there's still about 17 there. And I remember being asked by my HR person, I'm like, well, there are qualified people, as you know, convention sales and hotel business, people want to do business with people that look like them. So my strategy is, I think, always understanding the why, who I am. I know that that's easier said than done. I've been in rooms where I've been challenged overtly, meaning spelling it right out that, you know, why are you in this boardroom? And then the covert is, I think, where you need emotional intelligence and really make sure that you can, you know, kind of navigate through it, where people will let you know in so many ways, whether you're working on a project or you're trying to, you know, build a stop and shop in a town that they don't welcome a regional vice president that looks like me. But my strategy is to really educate. I really do take the time to educate. I am the person that will pull you into a conference room if it's overt and let you know. So I don't necessarily let people tell me and not tell back. But you really have to be respectful, understand that a lot of bias often comes from lack of education, i.e. people not understanding the beauty of Ethiopia, the fact that we're not defined by that one history or one story in the 80s. So my strategy is always give people the benefit of the doubt. I heard recently that the saying of meet people where they are needs to stop, because I think that debilitates us or debilitates the people around us to be responsible for knowing and researching and understanding about really the global world that we live in. So I'll educate, I'll address where necessary professionally. I'm often in rooms for the young folks in the room. I'm always that, you know, executive that's in the room and I hear one song in my head and it's the song, one of these kids is doing her own thing, and I sing it in my head to get through a bad meeting. But that's my strategy. I put some light into it, meaning I lighten it up so I'm not in a ball crying every day, but I think you just have to communicate. And mentorship. I have amazing mentors and we'll get into that when it's appropriate.
That's great. That's great. Hyatt, I'm going to get a little personal.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just kidding. No. But can you tell me a time where you felt like, okay, a certain project that you're part of, could be, and this could be, doesn't have to be work related, a setback that you've experienced, how did you overcome that? How do you respond to setbacks and failures? Sometimes we try to overprotect our children from not experiencing, we want them, but that's not the real world. And so how do you handle setbacks and failures, and how do you teach your children or people around you to overcome it?
Well, you know, being a parent, of course, there is a lot you learn as you raise kids. Sometimes you think you're doing the right thing, but might not. You learn that later on because my kids are old now. They're telling me you did this, you did that. You say, well, I have to. Well, I didn't know. I was whatever I did at that time. That's what I thought was better for you. But then, you know, how would you raise your kids? So when you get to that stage, we will talk. Well, let's discuss that. But in business, though, there's a lot of setbacks, especially for our business. We work hard sometimes. We have the same qualification we present to our clients or to our partners. And we don't, maybe if we don't win it because it's just some bias, but we try. We use that as a why, if we have a debriefing, like for example, the setback, we want to find out just to see who are the people who judged us, to put them, to put in perspective, okay, you know, why you think, but you don't get the full information you need, but at least you know the people now closely because otherwise you'll never meet them. So we take that, you see, and we do some research to learn from the setback. We will research the panel or the selection committee, where they come from, how they are biased. So next time we change our story. And instead of just being qualification based, we'll put some other storytelling in our proposal. And we use those setbacks as a training ground for staff. We also, the staff, when we put proposal or we put things that are each other's qualification, because it's an engineering firm, so it's all based qualification. We want them to know how the others present the qualification so they can learn from it and use that as a stepping ground. So setbacks, usually personal or otherwise, always a place to gain more knowledge.
Good answer.
ተመልካቾቻችን እንግዲህ እየተመለከታችሁ ያላችሁት ኤምፓወር ዘ ኮሚኒቲ ዊኬንድ ላይ ኦገስት 2 እዚህ ዋሽንግተን ዲሲ ተዘጋጅቶ ከነበረው ኤምፓወር ዘ ኮሚኒቲ ዊኬንድ ቢዝነስ ኤንድ ሊደርሺፕ ሌሰንስ ፍሮም ዘ ፍሮንት ላይን የሚለውን ፓነል ዲስከሽን ነው። እስቲ ወደዛ እንደገና ልውሰዳችሁ።
Judge, setbacks is part of life, right? Yeah. How do you, what's your MO for that? You know, how do you come back from that? Because it could happen at work anytime. It could have been earlier in your career, but something that you could remember that was significant that kind of help you see things differently or change.
I think for me, the biggest, I would say, in terms of setbacks and what I learned from them, I'll start with that and then possibly get into what my biggest setbacks was. I think, like Hayat said, for me, setbacks are where you realize where the holes are to your strength, right? So we all have our strengths. Some of us, it might be how we speak, it might be, you know, our networking, it might be, you know, we all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses. For me, I feel like a lot of times when I see either whether I see setbacks or whether I see what I would consider a failure, for me that's kind of, it helps me tune in. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it helps me tune in and say, okay, so this is something that I know didn't work. So what is it that I can use to learn from it to do something better next time? So I might have another setback next time, but it won't be the same one. So kind of helps me prepare for the next challenges I face. So, all right, so I know what didn't work last time for this, so I'm ready for these things. But I would say generally the biggest setback is when, I don't know if it's a setback, but for me the biggest challenge was creating my own path. I knew I wanted to do it my way. I'd seen, my father was a business owner, but completely different businesses. So I know it can be done. It's okay. You can make your own path. Can become successful. But I hadn't particularly seen somebody start a law firm, know how to do their books, these types of things. But for me, it became a tool. I became more interested in figuring out how to make it work. So I knew if I wasn't going to follow the conventional way and I had to create my own path, I had to do more research, I had to meet more people. I got involved with a networking group of females who do run their own law firms. And from there, we started to learn from each other, right? So we all realized we all do something right and we all do something not so great. But it became an amazing platform because, somebody would say, oh, you know what, I use this engine for billing. And this is how much it costs. So for me, I think because I knew I needed to create my own path and not knowing how to do it from a legal standpoint or start a law firm, creating these networks, building these relationships with people, really helped me because there were things I was able to easily say, okay, just do this, because it's either came easily to me or I learned it at some point. But putting myself out there, I guess is the best way to put it, and allowing people to tell me what I didn't know. So I found that I was like, okay, I should have done this a long time ago. So that was my setback at the beginning, not having created that network. But once I created that network, we just learn from each other.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Can I piggyback on that?
Yeah, you can piggyback and then
Absolutely.
also answer, how, personal practices or habits that you have developed for your professional growth. So as an advice for the young people, but just to piggyback on that.
Absolutely. Great story. When you understand your why, it makes your purpose even stronger.
That's true.
So I always tell people, know what your why is. Then it will help you shape the challenges that are going to come in your way, the obstacles that are going to always come in your way. We all have setbacks. We all have challenges. We all went through a journey to get to this point where we're able to speak to you. But all of you, those that are listening to us, you have your whys. Part of my why was I used to be an athlete, and I used to run 3-mile cross-country races. I would run the first mile in under 5 minutes, not realizing there's 2 more miles. And the second mile is like the steepest hill that you can imagine. And I'm like, I got 2 more miles. I overpaced myself. So when I get to that 2nd mile and I see that hill, I would tell myself, pain is nothing compared to the feeling of giving in. And I'm gonna say that one more time. Pain is nothing compared to that feeling where that monkey's on your back, your legs are burning, to the feeling of giving in. So I've always used that motto when we have challenges, when we struggle, when we're tired. For the young people, when you don't want to go to school, when the parents, when they don't want to listen to you, help them understand their why. For me, it was poverty plus understanding that, being first generation is not something I brag about. I wish all my siblings went to college. That should be the norm for all of us. All our brothers and sisters should go to college. But we brag about being the first in our family. I didn't want to be the first in my family. I want my whole family. So we have to help understand our young people that you're going to have obstacles. You're going to come from poverty. Our people from Ethiopia are resilient when they come here. So when you understand your why and your journey to come here, listen to your parents because they sacrifice a lot to be here so that we can have opportunities. So I always feel the fact that being relentless comes from within. Persevering through obstacles is part of life. And when we understand our why and where we come from, hopefully that will give us the energy, the sense of purpose to be able to say, you know what? I could be a judge one day. I could be a business person. I could be the CEO or vice president of a company because we have representatives that look like us that are also doing some phenomenal things.
That's great. Helena, let me come to you. Personal habits and practices that support your professional growth. What do you do to continue that well-being, not just in your personal journey, but also in your professional space?
That's a really, really good question. I think a lot of it goes in a couple of different ways for me. One of them, and I'm going to keep repeating this because I think it's one of my kind of tactics and ways of moving forward, is we've all said it, remembering my why. And so, you know, now that I'm 48, in my 20s you couldn't tell me that because tears came fast, everything looked like failure. To your point, it's one of those, you know, race cars that just keep crashing and burning, and then you get another one and you get back in it. I ground myself in, I think, my mother. I have a 16 and a 19-year-old, so my family and my kids in prayer. I know that I think to be spiritually well is important. And that's a very, very daily tactic, multiple times a day tactic for me. The other one, more practical things, I tell everyone at work that I'm no good to you if I don't go to jog at 3 in the morning or 3:30. I'm up early. I think in thinking about adversities, failure, success, I make it a habit to look at myself in the mirror, and not literally, but kind of reflecting on the day before, the week before, where did I kind of, you know, needed to adjust, especially if I'm on a day-to-day impacting people. So that's a strategy where, you know, once I do my morning run, I really sit with myself and think about, you know, I think it was probably in my late 20s when I was in front of a speaker, Shelley Broader. She was at the time the CEO of Walmart Canada. And she said something that had a profound effect on how I lead today and why I look at myself every day. I've been married for 22 years, long story, no kidding, it's good. And I have to be a wife. I have 2 kids, 16 and 19. I have to be good to them. I have a whole team at work. I sit on several boards. And so I always think about like what does, and just an analogy from an academia perspective, what does the semester look like? Because I know on any given day, I can't be an A+ mom, an A+ executive, an A+ board member. I can't pull an A+ every single day. There are some days where I'm a C mom, a B wife, and a kick-ass person at work. Most days I keep my average up to a B+ on everything.
That's a good average.
But that's my strategy, is that I'm better to myself than I was in my 20s. Now that I'm in my late 40s, I think about what failure is perceived by others, but I also define my own success. You know, if you've ever heard, how do you fit a square peg in a circle peg? Well, you can't. And so self-reflection, self-awareness, be easy on yourself. I think that if the world tells you it's failure, it's failure. If you tell yourself and you're honest with yourself and you stay with your family, you're committed to them, you stay with your commitments, and you're easy on yourself. But also pray. And my advice is, like I said, I run every morning because I'm no good to anyone. You'll know by 10 a.m. in the morning if I didn't have my morning run. So
Fantastic. Great answer. Final question for everybody, the same question this time. If you had to offer one piece of advice to someone beginning their leadership journey, let me start with you. What would that be?
Leadership journey.
Or it could be business journey for you. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to me, leadership, well, if you're young, be open-minded, listen, and say your piece. Don't be quiet if you don't understand. That way you may learn some tricks to help you in the future to be a leader. So I encourage people to speak their mind, talk to people who achieved or did not achieve well, to see why people who did not achieve much. You may learn something from them, and that's a lesson for you not to do. So to me, listen. If you are looking for example, a career or a job, a firm, if you get there, make sure before you get to the interview table, see if the company is supporting social justice, or are they doing good for the community? If we don't see that you shouldn't be working for them because you may not be happy or you may not achieve what you want to achieve in life, because if you don't enjoy your work or the place where you work, it's not going to be a good journey for you. So pay attention to that type of.
That's great. One piece of advice, Judge.
All right, so that's a tough one, but I'll try.
Because you have a lot.
I'm going to agree with Hayat. I think it's very important as a leader to listen. I think it's important to listen. It's important to understand people have different perspectives, right? So you have to understand people's perspectives and their backgrounds in order to lead them. You have to understand your audience and the environment you're in. So for example, for me as a judicial officer, leadership looks different because I have to look at it from the perspective for the people around me, what is their role? How do they support me? I have to understand what they do for me to lead them, to be able to even provide them guidance as to what I want, right? So I think listening, knowing people's perspective, understanding their background, and knowing your setting. So I assume as in a legal field it's different, in the business field it's different, and the hospitality, and in the academia it's all different. You have to understand your setting. You have to understand what the system is that you're in, because if you don't understand the system, you can't lead it.
That's true.
So that's my big advice.
One piece of advice.
For me, is seek mentorship. We've all had mentors that got us to where we are today. No matter if you're a student or professionals, we can always learn from somebody. And also be bold. Be bold in what you want to do. Be brave, be optimistic, be a leader, and understand your purpose, because those are some of the elements that have helped me get to this point. But I'm also optimistic about the future of this country, the future of the country back home. And leadership is about responsibility. So as you're seeking mentorship, find out what it is you want to do, how you can help your community, and be responsible, because we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
We're dealing with difficult times, whether you're in education, whether you're in business, whether you're in law. Things are changing fast. Technology is evolving. So I always say seek mentorship so that you can learn how to evolve as a person, but also so that you can make an impact. And then the last thing is be in a space where hopefully you can make decisions. The reason why I chose to be college president is because I wanted to hire people that look like me. I had a chance to hire my first group of executives, and they're all 3 diverse women that work in my cabinet. And that's important to me, because we got to give people opportunity for people that look like us that are also qualified. So thank you for having us today. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be here.
And it's the reason why that's happening. It's because there's a vacuum and we need to, meet that gap. There's a reason. It's not because I just want to hire somebody that looks like me. There's a reason.
Absolutely.
Those positions were not available to us in the way that they should be, because it's for the qualified people, right? I just want to preface that. It's not because I want to hire somebody because they look like me. It's because they're qualified and they're not being given the opportunity. So when you're in a leadership position, that's what he's doing. That's awesome.
Can I add? And
yes, I add and take that on the next question, which
I'm
is the piece of
excited
advice.
about what everybody's saying, and I think that it's spot on. And you don't know what you don't know. So one advice I would say is slow down long enough to speed up. And if I'm wrong, I'll take ownership. But I think that we come from a culture where it's hurry up, get your undergrad, get your graduate school, go be something. And sometimes it's okay to slow down. And I have a 19-year-old going off to college, and he's an athlete, wanted to reclass and do something different, and I was against it. And his dad was like, no, he's got to reclass. And I remember going through COVID and saying, okay, the world can wait for you. And this is at any age, at any career level. And I'm not advocating for anyone, please don't get me in trouble with your parents, to not, obviously go at the pace you need to go, undergrad, grad school, PhD, whatever you need to do. But I realized that the world is yours, and if you understand how to manage what your output is or what you want to be your output. And for me, it's always like, how do I make the next person's life better? Passionate about social impact, economic impact, making sure that women and girls that look like me are super uber successful. So for me, I continue even at this point to readjust, recalibrate. I don't know, I might want to go to law school again.
Who knows?
You still can.
My father's still dreaming that I would do that, but you know, is more school the right answer? I'm doing what I think is my passion, which is giving back to the community, but I would just say slow down long enough to speed up, take folks along with you. I've heard everyone saying, which I'm so excited about, that success or anything that you do does not become as enjoyable until you look at someone that you've literally changed their lives because you gave them an opportunity, not because it was a hand-me-down, but because they were qualified. And this world doesn't always see us in the boardroom. And it's changing, clearly, but take someone along with you, but slow down long enough to really think about where you want to be, because when you get there, oh crap, you're there. So you just want to be ready for it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. This was just a wonderful conversation. I appreciate each and every one of you. Came all the way from Boston, Helena. I appreciate you all the way from LA. Hayat and Meti, our local, Judge Meti, our local. But I'm so thrilled that all of you came and share your journey, your experience, your expertise. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the event until we come back on the stage. Thank you for listening, everybody.
ተመልካቾቻችን እንግዲህ ከዚህ ከፓነል ዲስከሽን ጠቃሚ ሀሳቦችን እንዳገኛችሁበት ተማመናለሁ። በሚቀጥለው ሳምንት ደግሞ ሁለተኛውን ፓነል ዲስከሽን ይዘንላችሁ ቀርባለሁ። እንግዲህ ይህንን እድል ተጠቅሜ ስፖንሰሮቻችን በጣም አድርጌ ማመስገን ፈልጋለሁ። በቀዳሚነት ኢቢኤስ ቴሌቪዥን፣ ካይዘር ፐርማነንት፣ ኮሎኒያል ፓርኪንግ እንደዚሁም ኦል ኦፍ አወር ሲልቨር እና ብሮንዝ ስፖንሰርስ በጣም አድርጌ ላመሰግናቸው ወዳለሁ። ያለ እነሱ እንዲህ አይነት ፕሮግራም አይሰራምና ጥያቄ ካላችሁ ኢምፓወር አዲስም እየተዘጋጀ ስለሆነ በሱ ላይ መሳተፍ ለምትፈልጉ info@empowercw.com ብላችሁ ኢሜል ብትልኩልኝ ይደርሰናል። በሚቀጥለው ሳምንት እስከምንገናኝ በደህና ቆዩ።